All right, welcome to this episode of First Home Hustle. I'm Kim McCarty.
And I'm Dave Stahl.
So today we have a special guest, Jake Hansen with Farmers Insurance is here.
Correct.
He's going to talk to us about insurance and first-time home buyers with their insurance. So most first-time home buyers are coming off of a rental plan or their parents' plan, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So talk to us about how you handle the first-time home buyer when they call you and say, help, I'm buying my first house. I need insurance.
Lots of education. And that's something that we have a process for in our agency, which is really advising people on how insurance works at its core. You know, what does it do? What are the functions of it at its base policy level? And then how can you make it do different things with endorsements or adjusting deductibles and stuff like that? But really educating people about what the risks are in our area, like North Texas is hail capital of the universe. So we have to talk about hail. But also other things too, like fires or frozen water pipes or theft. You know, you got to know how your policy works for those things, because sometimes the insurance policy pays a certain dollar amount for something, and it will pay less for something else. And you don't really know that until you file a claim. And if you're a first-time home buyer, you're not thinking about filing a claim. You're thinking about paying my mortgage and what decorations am I going to put in there. Where am I getting my furniture? Where's my Nebraska Furniture Mart card? You know, that's not on your to-do list. Is checking off the insurance stuff. So we like to start with an education on the basic insurance process and how it works. And then at the end of that, we'll have tailored a policy to what their needs are. And usually first-time home buyers will be buying, you know, either an older home that's been updated or they're buying a brand new home. And those are two different scenarios for what your policy needs to do. So there's a little bit of conversation in there about what really you need to have right now and what can we not pay for that's not really that necessary.
Okay. So give us an example, because I know most first-time home buyers are probably just looking at the dollar signs, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, okay, well, I only want to spend X amount a month. That's all I budgeted for. And so when you look at that and you're like, well, that's not going to cover if this, or that's at a 2% deductible, kind of talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, so some of the things that I see, like coming from, let's say, a home builder, right? They give their insurance quote, they give their lender quote, they estimate certain amounts for taxes and insurance and things like that. Those numbers are always wrong.
Right.
Their job is to sell a house, and I get that. But we typically advise to do different things with their insurance, because the policy that the builder is going to give you is just so they can sell a house.
Exactly.
You know? And it's going to have a 2% deductible. It's going to undervalue the home and those kinds of things. So if you have a budget for insurance, what you really need to do is figure out what your insurance agent's going to do for you to determine that budget. Going into the insurance conversation thinking you're going to spend $50 a month like your renter's insurance policy, it's going to be a culture shock.
Right.
And I've gotten lots of referrals over the years where someone says, yeah, my lender from ABC Home Builder said my insurance is, you know, $75 a month. What can you do for me? It's like, not $75 a month, right?
Yeah, but let me educate you on what $75 a month is going to get you.
Exactly, because we can do that, but I don't think you want to have that high of a deductible, because you told me you were kind of scraping to get your down payment together. Now, if you have a $10,000 bill next month for a hailstorm, is that really benefiting you? Or could we spend a little bit extra money to lower that deductible down?
Right.
Or maybe your roof policy has an actual cash value endorsement, so they're not going to pay out the total cost of the claim. So, yeah, you've got your deductible, but really your deductible is all of the uncovered expenses of a claim.
Right.
So if it's $5,000 plus gutters and downspouts and fence work and all this other stuff too, your deductible is really like $10,000.
Right.
So lots of education on what's going to happen when you use your insurance.
Right.
That's a lot of things. That's one thing that a lot of people I don't think about is I'm just buying insurance because I have to. They're not thinking about using it, because we file claims once every 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It's not really that big of a pain point if you haven't just dealt with insurance. So really just kind of opening people's eyes to what insurance really does and what your plan does and how it can be either better or maybe a little bit cheaper.
So I would say most first-time home buyers don't even know really what a deductible is. So a deductible, in simple terms, is if you have, example, a hailstorm, and you need to get a new roof, you're going to pay the first X amount, which is your deductible. And if it's 1% and the house was $400,000, the first $4,000, and then the rest is covered by insurance. That's just simple explanation. Is that correct?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. What other things would you say as a first-time home buyer you need to be looking for or be aware of with your insurance?
Yeah, a couple things. So we've had in the past few years lots of deep freezes. So we've had lots of frozen pipe claims. We've also had several big hailstorms like the one from last May. We filed 120 claims overnight. We had over 300 claims altogether just in Allen from our clients.
Right.
And most of our clients live in Allen, so that makes sense. But people aren't thinking about, you know, how bad things can really be. Like your roof is going to cost $20,000 or $30,000. Right. If your insurance company is only going to pay for half of that, your deductible is the other half. Right. So it's not just that percentage. But there's also things like theft coverage. You know, if you live in a big neighborhood, maybe they have the neighborhood watch signs around there. That feels really nice, but do you know the crime rates for your city? Maybe investing in a lower deductible for theft might be a better idea, even if it costs you an extra $20. But if all you're thinking about is how can I get that price on my homeowner's policy lower, and someone's just going to write you a policy at whatever your budget is, there needs to be a conversation about how we got there, right? Because it's not just the deductible. Maybe they do have that 1% deductible, but they're not going to cover the full cost of the roof. Or maybe they don't cover broken pipes. I write lots of policies for people that cover water damage where they didn't know that wasn't covered before, and then they had a $10,000 water claim they had to pay for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's
So
a shock.
I have a question. What do you do when people come to you and they're like, I'm really limited in terms of budget, and my lender says that this is what the taxes are, this is what the principal and interest is, and the insurance has to fit in this box.
Yeah, right?
What do you do then?
Happens a lot. So typically what we'll do is advise them on ways we can get to that number. I don't want you to not close on your house because we can't get the insurance to be there with our perfect plan.
Right.
Right? So some people will just say, hey, the difference between what my lender says and what I need to have is $500. I'll just pay the $500 out of pocket.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay.
Right? Or because that's what, $40 a month? Maybe that might make the difference on your DTI.
After closing.
After closing. Yeah. Not on your credit card.
Change it right after closing. I say to change it right after closing because if you're stuck in that little box where everything's got to fit at this ratio, but the policy that I really need and should have is $500 more a year, you're going to have to do that right after closing.
Well, that's what I did for my policy, though. Whenever I bought my house with you guys, I bought my policy, and it was, I can't remember how much it was, but what I really wanted to have was a lower deductible because I know we're likely to have a hailstorm. So I ended up changing it 25 days, almost 30 days after closing, and I just put the difference. I just paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't get the policy that you want, but to close, we're going to draft a plan that
fits in that budget that you have to be in there.
And sometimes we have to do some crazy stuff. I mean, I've seen people say, hey, jack the deductible up to 5%, and we'll do that for a month and do a rain dance and hope it doesn't hail. If it hails, I'll just have to figure it out.
Right. Okay.
So we
I
can
didn't
always
know that you guys could do that. Okay. I didn't know that.
We find ourselves in that spot a lot because because we're not like generations past. We're like, we're going to live within our means and way beneath our means. We're now in this spot where people are like, what's the highest debt ratio I can do? And what can I buy with that debt ratio? And you're like, okay, if we go to that limit, then these are the things that because I'll spell it out. I'll go, this has to be this, this has to be this, and this has to be this, or none of it works.
Yeah, and there's only this much wiggle room within this number. Like, this is what's left over for insurance.
Right.
How can we get there?
Right.
Yeah, see, that's something I really don't even have to pay attention to because you guys are doing it all behind the scenes, right? I mean, I just am like, make it happen, and we'll find the house and make it happen.
And that's kind of how it is, though. It shouldn't be something that you or the buyer have to freak out about.
Right.
You know, it's like, I'm going to get the insurance that I need, so let's just make closing happen, and then
Right.
we'll follow
And
up
then
after
we'll
a couple weeks.
turn around and change it. I didn't know that. Okay, now I
All the
learned
furs
something.
in my closet have to be covered, but they don't have to be covered on closing day.
All the firearms, those can wait. You got a safe, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do some stuff like that, too. We had one policy where we actually took off the replacement cost for the roof for the first year because it was just done, like, at closing. They paid for it at closing, and the roof got put on a week later. So you don't need to have all this special fancy coverage for a brand new roof. Save some money right now. And then next year, let's go ahead and put that back on so you don't forget.
Right.
Because if you let it go 5 years, then you have a claim. Okay, now we got a problem.
Well, and that's what I love about you is that every year we sit down and we kind of talk about, hey, this is what's changed. Here's what it's going to cost. And, do we need to shop it? Do we need to keep looking around?
Exactly.
And that kind of stuff. I mean, I know that for us, it's always waiting for, and we're one of the ones that haven't filed our claim yet for our roof, but
I'm right there with you.
I mean, it'll happen. But, being able to call and get a hold of somebody, I think that's important too. And I think a lot of first-time home buyers are young like you and who want to do everything online and don't want to really have a face-to-face conversation with people. And I think that's important to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody just like a local lender. I think that's huge, that I can go to his office and say, hey, what's going on here? This file is a mess or whatever. But I can also call him. Yep. When I have someone on the internet and let's say we had a fire, right? Who's going to help me at 2:00 in the morning, figure out what I'm supposed to do? Well, not somebody on the internet.
Yeah, and that's the thing with a lot of first-time buyers. They're usually in my demographic, my age group, and a lot of people my age are kind of untrusting of professionals because they've seen their parents get sold something. They've heard all this, used car salesman stories. So we're hard to trust.
Right.
I can trust the computer because I put the information in.
Right.
you're not usually the expert, so the information you put in is probably not right.
Right.
Just to say that. But having someone that you can actually call whenever your car got broken into, or I had a client of mine actually got caught in a flash flood and called me at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We had a client that had a house fire. They called me at 2 a.m. It was that story from
Yeah.
Lydia. So these are real things that happen to people. And at a time of crisis, you're not going to care about saving $100 a year on your insurance.
No.
You really don't care if you got a good deal with Progressive if you can't get a hold of someone on the 1-800 number.
Exactly.
You've
Exactly.
got to have that professional.
Something else I wanted, because it just hit me. I was thinking about it because when I bought my last house, I had one driver who had just turned 16 and another one coming up, and we were always least amount of cost, maximum coverage, right? But there's something that people have to address, the combination of all the insurances that you have to have.
Right.
Exactly.
And can you kind of talk about that? How people need to look at the combination of the total cost of all the insurances that they have,
Like their
not just the
autos
homeowner.
and home. Okay.
Right.
That's something that we do is a full analysis of your insurance. So even if someone is coming to us just to buy a home, I want to tell them, how can I help you with the rest of this? Because you've got this piece over here with that person, you've got this piece over here, you got that there. You don't have one person that has their eyeball on the entire playing field. So I can only help you with limited options if I have one piece. So let's look at this and this and this and the total cost of your insurance. What is it all doing for you? Maybe Allstate has a really good deal because their price is a little bit cheaper, but they've got higher deductibles. Do you really want to pay that, right? What's your total annual cost of insurance is usually what we look at, because you're right. Sometimes the home policy might be higher with one insurance company, but the auto policy is significantly cheaper.
Right.
But I wouldn't be able to show you that if I was just looking at your home.
Right.
So someone you can trust to sit down, look at all the pieces, and actually act on their advice. That's one thing that I think is really missing with that relationship between agents and clients in general, is that agents spend all this time trying to teach people how things work and what you should do and how to better protect yourself. And then we say, okay, yeah, I'll file that away in my brain for future use, and then they never act on it. So then they do have that higher deductible, or they do have that renewal increase they never look at, and then money's just coming out of your bank account. You're not noticing it.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you have someone that looks at the whole situation for you. Even if you don't end up buying all of their insurance from one place, every agent can write you just one policy. But you need to know kind of all the whole picture.
Right.
When you get your finger on the pulse of someone's insurance situation, you can really help them.
Yeah, for sure. All right. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Super easy. You can find me at inodine.com, or you can call me at 214-577-0326. That's my cell. If you can't reach me there, call us at the office, 972-727-9705.
Awesome. And if they want to get a hold of Dave?
You can reach me at 972-896-8790.
And we are at 214-662-9308. And remember, if you want to buy a house anywhere in the U.S., we can help you find the perfect agent and the perfect lender, and now the perfect home insurance person as well. So give us a call.